Hello everyone, this is Logan McIntosh, and I'm one of the District Special Education ISSs at the Dodea Pacific West District Office. And today I'm going to talk with you a little bit about tips for structuring the home environment for remote learning success. And the intention for these tips is to support students with learning differences or learning disabilities, students on IEPs. However, these practices are really good for any student. And furthermore, it's intended to support students in the remote learning format. But again, these strategies can be used year-round, even when the school buildings are open. And they're just strategies that can support completing homework or otherwise or other learning activities at home. So, as you're finding your footing with planning for remote instruction at your home, the first thing you have to do is be gracious with yourself. And you don't have to worry about recreating an entire school day because that's impossible. A good place to start is to check the schedule of synchronous classes. Those are the classes that are offered live by your child's teachers, and build that into the schedule. Then you should make a flexible schedule of asynchronous work. And it's flexible because it's at the student's own pace and on the student's own time. But at the same time, you have to be intentional in planning time to get that asynchronous work done. Um, Also, it's really important to set priorities and focus on the most important skills. You may not be able to get to everything. So if you can only get to a few things, what are the things that you know your child needs to work on? What are the areas where maybe you saw your child regress previously when we were in remote learning that you need to really make sure they get to this time around? So think about that. Balance is so important. There has to be a structure, but there also has to be flexibility. The structure shouldn't be rigid. To that end, a menu of options that allows choice throughout the day can be really helpful for students. So this could be choices of what assignments to work on. Maybe a certain time of the day is for math or science, and the student will choose whichever topic is most interesting on that given day. There also should be choices for diversions, choices for breaks. So, what fun things can the kid do while they're recharging? Um, the thing about choices, though, just like tools, links, or games, or anything we present to a kid, when we present too many of them, it can be really overwhelming. So try to narrow choices down to about three or four. You know your child best, so whatever they can handle. But the point of this is that too many choices could actually undermine what you're trying to achieve. Establishing a routine. Structure and predictability are comforting for many students. And when students are comforted and grounded, they are more productive. So some things to think about when you are setting up the routine. Maintain typical sleep and meal schedules. With remote learning and a lot of the asynchronous work we do, some students tend to invert their schedule and want to sleep throughout the day and stay up later at night. This ultimately is really challenging for when we do transition back to in person. So it's to the maximum extent possible, it's good to hold the integrity of a typical day. To that end, though, you should also use your knowledge of the child to plan activities accordingly. If you know your child is not a morning person, then you might strategically place some of the lighter asynchronous work in the morning and then save the more rigorous stuff for the afternoon. So just think about what you know about your child and when they work best, and strategically place assignments in those places accordingly. Um, your schedule should also be very realistic. It can be quite defeating if you put too many things on the schedule and you're unable to achieve it. So be realistic with the schedule and involve your child if possible. Balance activities by content and format and be sensitive to screen time. We're all really concerned about the amount of screen time right now. So you might divide up screen heavy tasks and separate them and intersperse them with breaks and reading and tasks that don't require being directly in front of the computer. There also should be built-in breaks that are on the schedule, but also flexible breaks that are being provided as needed. And as you're monitoring your child, if you're able to do that, you might gently suggest they take a break if you start to see frustration or you see that they're getting tired. Also, using timers is a really good way to create balance because it helps you know how much time your child has been on a particular task. And it also lets you know how much time they've been on break. Timers are a good way to kind of conceptualize and quantify the amount of time on task. So a student can really process having to work on something for 10 discrete minutes. And then have maybe, a short 3-minute break as opposed to working on it with no end in sight. Setting up a space is so important, and the spaces also create structure and predictability when we're in remote learning. So when you're setting up a space, some things to keep in mind: clear clutter and distractions. You want to have good lighting. Um, Also, integrate visual supports into the space. Maybe those are calendars, checklists, timers, maybe some of the other supports they might have in their classroom, like word walls. And then also, if there's any materials they need, have those materials organized and in baggies, labeled if possible, and just able for them to get to very easily. There also should be a dedicated space for breaks, and this space should be separate from the workspace. This helps the break time from not slipping into the work time if they're in two separate physical spaces. Um, and again, the break is something that's not a punishment, so it shouldn't be a punishment or timeout area. It should be an area where the students can recharge and refresh and enjoy themselves. So within that area, there would be preferred objects and toys and calming tools. Anything that they typically use to relax, to have fun, and to recharge. As you're working with your student at home or observing them work, it's really important to monitor their energy levels. So when the energy gets too low, they're getting drowsy, they're getting tired, you might integrate some alerting activities, activities that or supports that increase energy. So that would be like jumping, bouncing, climbing, running, dancing, things that get the heart rate up. You might increase the lighting if they can handle it and have some brighter lights. You could play some fast tempo music during a break time to maintain high energy. Being mindful of the temperature because warmer temperatures can cause drowsiness, cooler temperatures can keep students alert. And then also, some students are really sensitive to different sensory input and are sensitive to the types of food they eat. So crunchy snacks or active snacks are good for increasing energy, where softer snacks are good for like calming down and lowering energy. So conversely, if your child is getting too amped up and needs to calm down a bit, there are some calming activities and supports. So this would be different types of movements like rocking, swinging, stretching, balancing. You're moving away from the movements that get the heart rate up and to ones that calm down a little bit more. You might increase the room temperature, again, offering softer snacks, relaxing music, soft lighting. Compression is really helpful for some students, like hugs and squeezes and weighted blankets. And then, of course, deep breathing. That's always good. So, while in remote learning, anxiety is high for everyone, and there's going to be instances of stress for all students. So, we want to make sure that we're building building supports into the environment that address anxiety. So that would be having positive activities integrated throughout the day. That could be games, walks, preferred tasks, things that make the child feel successful. Along those same lines, voice and choice, allowing the child to say what they want to do or choose among a range of options. This goes back to the menus that we talked about earlier. Also, talking about emotions, creating space for children to share how they're feeling, and then for you to model coping, because as adults, we're also feeling stress, and we have the opportunity to show younger people how we handle stress in positive ways. Maybe one of those ways might be choosing one of the calming activities we already talked about. Also, integrating supporting statements into the day, such as, I know this is hard work, but I also know you can do this. So, acknowledging the challenges, but then also encouraging them forward. It's really important that you maintain the connection to your child's case manager and their special education service providers. Um, because all of this is individualized, some of these strategies I suggested won't be appropriate for your child. There are other strategies that will be. So you have to talk to that individualized child specific team to determine what's best. Some questions you might ask your case manager are, what visual supports are used in the classroom, and can I get copies for home? This helps. You're not trying to recreate the classroom at your house. You can't do that. But you can pull in some of the tools that are successful in the classroom into your home. You might ask the case manager, how long do you recommend that your child work before a break? You might ask what reinforcers they use in the classroom. You might ask what skills are most important to focus on, because there are some skills that we can focus on better at home or more intensely at home, and then there's others that we need to be in the school building for. So you can kind of prioritize what skills you're hitting. Thank you for taking the time and listening to some of these tips today. Again, one of the main takeaways is that this is an individualized process. So if you have questions or concerns, please reach out to your child's case manager. Or if you have a question you would like to pose to us, feel free to post it in the comment box associated with this video. Again, thanks so much for listening. Have a great day.